Welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Well, we're here today to talk about the future of talent, particularly around knowledge work, and the kinds of platforms that are now supporting knowledge work in some rather interesting and maybe disruptive ways. Each person has got something that they're working on and work with that you could think of as being a disruption in the world of work. We're going to start. I'm going to ask both Tomer, Pat, and Kerem about the platforms that they built, and then we're going to hear from Annabelle a little bit as she kind of critiques or thinks about what they have to talk about. So, Tomer, tell us a little bit about how. LinkedIn. Everybody knows LinkedIn. Hands up. Anybody who's here? Who's on LinkedIn in this room? Yeah, that's probably a relatively low rate compared to most.
I'm actually missing a few people. So.
Yeah.
I'll do a sign up outside.
So everybody knows LinkedIn, obviously. A hugely influential platform. But how do you think about it in terms of how it's unlocking the potential of talent and human potential?
So I became a LinkedIn fan long before I joined the company. In 2008, I was a student at Stanford, and Reid Hoffman, the founder, gave a talk at the engineering school, and he talked about the power of professional communities. And it's the first time I heard it. I joined LinkedIn before, but honestly, I didn't know exactly what I was doing with it. And then Reid talked about how when communities come together online, really everything is possible. And I was like, this is fascinating. I joined many years after. But if I fast forward till today, I think of LinkedIn as a superpower skill for every professional. So you might be an entrepreneur in India, you might be an AI engineer here in Dubai, you might be a design intern in Kenya, and you're one step away from over 1 billion people around the world who are professionals, 70 million companies, 15 million jobs, and infinite amount of information and knowledge. And that just happens on the platform. Now, what happens with it is when you think about LinkedIn, we always talk about our vision as creating economic opportunity for every professional. And that's not, I think it's special, but not unique to us. What's unique to us is how we go about it, which is about connecting professionals to each other. So our whole idea is we help connections between people, and we actually help them become more productive and successful. That's how we do it. And from that, you can hire, partner, market, sell, build your company, build your career, grow. And that's really the power of the platform itself. I'll give you an example. I recently went with a toy maker in Spain. And this toy maker wanted to change his career. He wanted to move into nonprofit. He wanted to focus on something he was very passionate about, which is helping kids in Africa. And he took his skill as a toy maker to build prosthetic arms for kids who are missing limbs in Africa. Wow. And he had no idea how to build a business. He just knew how to make prosthetic arms. So he went on LinkedIn, he asked for go-to-market advice, business partners, distribution partners in Africa, built his entire idea on top of LinkedIn. That's the beauty of it. So when we think about it we actually help professionals thrive, and when professionals thrive, the whole economy actually goes forward.
Very cool. And people use it in totally different ways, right? Some people are using it for publishing, some people are using it to build 100%. Communities, build knowledge. It's
in the same day. So in the morning, I might come up and I want to see what's happening in the industry and what Elon Musk said yesterday. Mm-hmm. And then, at noon, I'm about to interview somebody. So I want to check out their profile. And later in the day, I had not a great interaction with my boss. I want to see what's out there for me. It's all in the same day on the platform happening. So it's really multiple needs for coming together.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Pat, talk about Catalant.
That's a great story, by the way. I think I'm using LinkedIn in the wrong ways.
Yeah, really. I think we all need to take a coaching class from Tomer.
I'm going to pick your brain after this. First of all, it's an honor to be here. So Catalant is a company that we started in 2014 to disrupt the traditional consulting industry. So we work with about 50% of the Fortune 500, and we work with every large private equity firm. And what we do is we make it very easy for them to connect to people who can solve their problem and have solved it before. So our network, we have about 120,000 people globally, and a smaller subset of that we partner closely with. But they're people who were formerly partners at McKinsey, or they were VPs or C-level executives at a Fortune 500, or they were leaders at a private equity-backed company. And they've decided that they want to leave the traditional firm or leave the company that they're at to start their own independent consulting practice and have much more independence. And I think it really, in a pretty tremendous way, I think does unlock human potential, because a lot of the people who are the best at what they do, if they're at a traditional consulting firm or if they're at an executive level at a large company, the more senior they get, the more distant they get from the actual impact of the work in being able to leverage their expertise. If you think about what you get when you hire a traditional consulting firm, oftentimes the work is largely delivered by junior people, and the people who actually understand the problem are selling the next engagement, and they're partnering with executives to find new opportunities. And that's the business model, and that's not a knock on what they do. But when those people leave their traditional consulting firms and they join Catalant, they're able to go and deliver unbelievably impactful work. They actually make more money when they do it, and the client pays substantially less money because they're getting a solution that's actually fit to purpose for what their problem is. So typically our cost is about 40% of what McKinsey would charge you, but our clients never talk about the cost. What they really think about is the fact that you're able to get a better answer when you can connect with somebody who either has the experience from working at a consulting firm or because they've been in your seat before as a former operator and they really understand how to solve that problem, and they can now go and take what they've learned and apply it across so many different organizations.
So, what are these? I mean, these consultants who are taking all this experience. I mean, I imagine for them it's also a chance to kind of get back to the thing that they were most passionate about in the first place, and it actually allows them to connect to the work, the content, the problem solving that they may have got in the industry to begin with, rather than maybe selling the work to clients or whatever.
I was mentioning to Tim when we were walking in here, we're in the same building as a large consulting firm actually in the US. And in the past month, I've had 3 different people, 2 who were partners at that firm, 1 who was a project leader, actually send me a message on LinkedIn. There we go, full circle here. Send me a message on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm thinking about leaving the firm. Can I come and talk to you about joining Catalant? And they took the elevator downstairs. I won't say the name of the firm, but you could figure it out if you wanted to. They took the elevator downstairs, came into our office, and talked to me about wanting to leave. And the consistent theme with why they want to leave the traditional firm is there's a lot of politics and there's a lot of negativity in the air around these firms. But the most common reason is because when you become more senior, you become a salesperson and you move away from actually delivery of the work. And these are people who have built up really deep expertise, and they get value from seeing the impact of the things that they can do. And so that's what they really want to get back to, is being able to have that impact.
Yeah, right, that's totally understandable. Kerem.
Yeah, again, hi everyone. It's an honor and pleasure to be here. I'm co-founder of NEOL. NEOL is relatively young compared to both LinkedIn and Catalant, although we do look up to both of these organizations as we are building our product. We are an AI native platform that enables organizations and governments to bring together their networks of talent to work on their most pressing challenges. So when you think about, let's say at the government scale, I'm personally based in Dubai, and we work very closely with different parts of the government here. But when you think about how government currently functions, let's say last year we had huge flooding here, obviously, and let's say you want to tackle the problem of flooding for this year, right? Usually governments think in silos, so the roads and transportation authority would look at it from their perspective. The Dubai Health Authority would look at it from their perspective. What we are trying to enable at NEOL is to, when we think about this as an entire talent pool, and we have a challenge to solve, which is, let's say, flooding. And when we put in that challenge as a regular challenge that we can all articulate, who are the right people who are within the ecosystem, as well as who are within the networks of Dubai, who should really come together around the table and solve that challenge. And today with large language models, you don't need to be an expert in exactly understanding how to solve the challenge. All you need to do is to be able to articulate what is the problem that you are trying to solve. And our technology looks into people's backgrounds, publicly available information on them, as well as their profiles, their expertise areas, their passions, to really help an organization to build the best team that's fit for that challenge. And it is unlocking human potential in a few ways. One, I believe, is we are all multidisciplinary people in today's world. I think that's the only way we really survive and thrive in today's world. So capturing that aspect of each individual is a difficult task, and our technology is working very hard on bringing out the nuances of individuals. And the second is bringing together individuals who are currently seemingly disconnected simply because we might be sitting in two different offices within the same building, working for the same boss even sometimes. We don't actually get to talk to each other because we simply don't know who is competent in what. So we're trying to build more bridges within organizations by enabling them to connect through this. So yeah, we are in the relatively early parts of our journey. We're about 2 years old, but as with AI, everything is progressing quite quickly, and we're very excited to build it here in Dubai on the ground, working with a lot of leaders that we have been looking up to.
Thank you. So Annabelle, all of these platforms, they're all sort of disrupting the structures of the old structures, the old organizations. They're disrupting the ways that we might develop our own careers. They're changing the way we might think about our opportunities in the world. I mean, what do you think is most important for us to think about with regard to these these new platforms and the future of talent?
Thank you, Tim.
Congratulations to all of you to what you have built. You are already well built and you're starting, right? This is you when you're a baby, and if you grow, you're going to be like LinkedIn, right? These platforms, these work platforms, I think are great in the sense that they allow human beings to connect with each other, to be more visible outside of the organization, and to get more choice into the projects that they get involved with. And I think in that way, it increases human potential. So I'm a big fan. As a professor, I always want to give a little lesson, very short. I think it's helpful to situate work platforms in the context of platforms in general. The reason why we have platforms disrupting social media, transportation with Uber, hotel with Airbnb, and so on, is because the digitalization is allowing this connection to happen. Digitalization, everybody's connected to everyone. And we have a new kind of firm that comes. A firm that is a platform firm that enables these connections. So, in a way, what we see is two models of platforms, and I think the work platforms you were talking about are one example. One is this exchange, like a marketplace. So you can have a marketplace of goods, like Amazon Marketplace. You can have a marketplace of workers. And I think what's interesting, I think, in each of your platforms is that you're not just a marketplace. You're not just a place where basically, workers many years ago go on the corner of the street and somebody is hiring them for the day. I think I heard Tim say earlier that some of these work platforms are building communities. So I think that I've started to work on platforms 30 years ago, was really enthused about the possibility that this new form of organization can create and generate a lot of innovation. I'm a little more sober today when we can look at the past 10, 15 years, and we see that some of these platforms that have become very, very powerful seem to have forgotten the whole idea of building communities. It's not so much about having any duty of care. And even some work platforms, not in the skilled space work, but in the work of, the great unwashed populations, millions and millions of people who have very little skills. In those contexts, some of the quote-unquote work platform can, yes, bring some flexibility, but also some precarity. If you're a rider for Deliveroo, or if you're an Uber driver, or if you are a TaskRabbit worker, there are some problems there about, protecting as a safety net the rights of the workers. So as individuals, we have worked in organizations. And in some countries more than others, there have been some social rights that have been earned over decades and decades of negotiations. And what we have forgotten, and again, not for those wonderful talent platforms, but those who are more looking at workers are interchangeable, faceless workers that are monitored and surveilled. In the pursuit of efficiency, and sometimes we are a bit bamboozled by the technology, we have almost not asked those questions that we took for granted about other things that come with work. Social security, a stable income, certain rights, certain belonging to a community and an identity. Yeah. So to finish on this, I think, first of all, the kind of workers you are talking to have a lot of social capital, have a lot of wealth, have a lot of connections, and they're sort of an elite. And so they know how to take care of themselves. And I think that perhaps there is a way to teach to the other platforms as well, not to forget about the other communities of workers.
I think even with these platforms, I mean, you think about it, or the conversation we were having a little earlier in the green room was, what about the young talent? How does young talent develop enough to be successful? I mean, clearly LinkedIn is pretty good at allowing anybody to be part of it. But how do you develop so that you can be a senior consultant, or you can develop the skills? What happens in whether it's in law or design or in management consulting? I mean, or accountancy. The question of how do people get educated to the point where they have got, if like, power in terms of their work. That's a question. I'd like us to just finish off here and just have each of you, and it's a very short amount of time, so like a minute each, just to sort of think forward a little bit, next 4 or 5 years. Kind of what's one thing that you're excited about that you think is going to emerge from these platforms or from the changes that we're seeing in the world of work that we can all start to get thoughtful about and anticipate? Who wants to go first? Tom,
happy to start. So I'm excited and nervous at the same time. So I think one, when you look at the future of work, whether or not your job is, whether or not you're trying to change your job is changing. I think it's really important to understand that, like, you will need different skills over the next 5 years. In fact, when we look at our data, we believe that 70% of the skills required to do your job today will be different 5 years from now. So the part that I'm nervous about is people actually starting to pick up and understanding that they have to be very adaptive to it. On the flip side, I do think it presents a whole idea of meritocracy. I think the notion around people taking control over their career, being able to build the skills they need, have access to the tools, will allow them to actually build whether it's businesses they want, experiences they want, but they have to keep up. So I think if the gap between where technology is advancing and education at the same time will be in a phenomenal place. But if technology is far advancing and education is not, then I think we'll see greater inequality.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, any panel where anybody's talking about the next 5 years, the word AI is almost certainly going to come up. And I think for us, that's actually a powerful and a big opportunity. A lot of the investments that we're making today are in supporting people who become independent consultants. If you become independent, it's really hard. You need to figure out, do I set up a legal entity? How do I handle my bookkeeping? How do I handle taxes? How do I deliver my work effectively? You need access to research databases. You need access to deliverable support. A huge thing we've been doing is building out tools that give consultants the ability to step out of a consulting firm but still deliver as if they're still at one. But I think the biggest opportunity is to leverage AI to give them much more leverage and support. Because the entire consulting business model is built on designing a good methodology and using analysts to deliver the work. But if AI, combined with other sources of data, can replace the role of the analyst, I think that actually allows one individual to deliver in such a more impactful way than if they were at a firm.
To build on both of these points of view, we believe in the next 5 to 10 years, the idea of having a CV, having a profile, will change quite dramatically. It will all be contextual. So who am I based on the challenge that I'm fed? What is that in my background that needs to really come out because I'm now speaking to an executive in an X type of company specifically focused on solving the Y challenge that they have. So individuals will build portfolio careers, especially kind of top talent who are able to both understand the nuances of technology and how technology is evolving and how to make better use of technology. But individuals who have a vision for they want to go with their careers can now build presences online, on LinkedIn or in their portfolio sites or in their code databases, wherever they are, And it's up to the organizations to make sense of all that about an individual, to say, I have this challenge and I will go exactly and work with Pat because he's going to be able to solve my Y challenge better than anyone else. And I think that that future is really ahead of us very soon.
Annabelle.
These are all excellent points. I don't think I have much to add to that, except that the point that Tim was raising about how do we ensure as societies that there are either institutions or platforms or partnerships between universities and firms and or platforms where the young generation acquires skills and becomes an expert. In what contexts are we going to have our younger generation develop those skills to reach a level of expertise where they can be identified as an attractive person to bring on a team? And I think that our universities are, many of them in crisis. I think that the evolution of how to bring the population to gain more skills, I think, is a complementary question to how these types of platforms are changing. And that's an important topic.
Wonderful. Well, I think some really interesting insights about what we can expect, about why these platforms are so important. I can imagine there's so much change going on that it wouldn't surprise me if we don't start to see new organizational forms beginning to emerge, new kinds of businesses we can't even imagine right now that are possible because of these platforms and because people are able to work in new ways. So Annabelle, Kerem, Pat, Thomas, thanks so much for joining us, and thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.